Why do some memories feel like they walk into a room before we do? You know, that relationship that ended, the mistakes that we made, the people that we've lost, the versions of ourselves that we can't shake. I wonder if learning to let go without pretending that it never mattered is actually the smartest way to go about it. In this week's episode, we're talking about ghosts. And yeah, I think meeting our ghosts would probably be where that conversation would start. But this week's unsolicited advice corner goes like this. This is the question. Why do I assume that the things I am weakest at are the things that don't contribute to my uniqueness? Slow, lazy, tired, lazy, smart, talkative, quiet, lazy, soft, overthinker? If you can define what you do know by highlighting what you don't, aren't those weaknesses merely traits that show you which lessons you've mastered and which you are yet to learn? Do you anticipate volatility when someone interacts with that piece of yourself? Weird. Sounds more to me like you want them to measure you by the lessons you understand the least. Dumb move. If someone's so susceptible to your influence, why wouldn't you rather try and enjoy it when you fail, because you will take accountability by highlighting what your thoughts were and call yourself out on your weakness? Sounds tough. Now, I have to choose how long I'd like to fail at something. Yeah, yeah. Okay. But anyway, back to ghosts. So I'm not talking about the supernatural kind. I'm not talking about the one that you're afraid of, the one that's in horror movies. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the invisible weight of what was. The invisible weight of how you interacted with someone, how you felt while interacting with someone, how you were becoming a better version of yourself. And I think in some of the losses that I've had this year, it's interesting because death is like finite. Like it's pretty much, it's like the ultimate thing, and once it's done, it's kind of happened, right? So you would think that certain experiences, certain interactions, certain moments wouldn't necessarily just find you. But I mean, that can happen with pretty much anybody. There's places you won't go back to because you're not with this group of people anymore. And that's kind of a thing that just happens silently without anybody really saying anything. So there's that to also be mindful of. But also, it's those old versions of ourselves that we've, I don't want to say forgotten, because if you'd forgotten it, you wouldn't remember that it's still there. But the pieces of yourself that you are finding and breaking and changing and rearranging as you are going through life, those pieces, that's the ghost side of what it is that we're talking about. And I mean, I've avoided places, I've stayed away from places. It's not, I don't think it's abnormal, because also it's, yeah, sentimental. Yeah, terrible. Terrible thing to find out about yourself. But it's not about that person per se. It's more about my interaction with that sensation, that feeling, that emotional state, if I can call it that. It's those pieces that kind of I'm referencing when I'm talking about this ghost that is walking into the room before you do, because you don't always know it's gonna be there, you know. And ghosts, ghosts are like unpaid interns, man. It is, they take up space and never actually help. It's that type of thing. But and it's a joke. Sorry, guys. I need to add more humor. Apparently, the segments are too slow, so I'm also trying to add a little bit of life into it. It's very difficult talking to a camera by yourself. But yeah. So why keep them, right? Why get wrapped up and lost and focus on this thing that feels as though it's not what it was, it's not how it was, it's not who you could be anymore. It's now changed, it's now different. And there's a lot of stuff that will maybe make sense to you in those moments because you actually, without wanting to, you're going to develop a sense of autonomy that might feel a little unfamiliar to you. But I think that's also the important part. And I think be careful, be mindful, because autonomy is also slightly addictive. It's not the be all and end all of the world, even though it has become the be all and end all for a lot of people. Right? Isolation has had devastating effects on us, unfortunately. But yeah, there's comfort in the familiar. So what you've gotten used to is something that you could potentially also not want to forget. So that's one of the reasons why we would hold on to the ghosts. Um, Fear of forgetting. That's probably a big one for me. I don't I don't want to replace what's on my hard drive type thing. I'm not trying to just delete time in my life because I believe there's value and there's lessons and there's things you need to learn. And there's a purpose for all of it, even if you don't fully understand it while it's happening. And I think one of the most interesting things is that so I have like cycles of low, and I don't always understand why they happen or when they're happening or what the trigger is for them happening. But in those seasons, if we can call it that, in those seasons, I believe something I'd done is working when it's not that, it's just the cycle changing. So you can get trapped in a cycle, and almost the information that you're receiving is something you can misconstrue. You can take it the wrong way because you'd think one thing is a different thing when it's not. And those patterns are kind of the dangerous thing because in those lows, there's certain things that I cycle back to, and that becomes problematic when it's something that I feel I've been successful at moving away from. But it's more than one piece of information that I think you have to take in, and that is where a lot of people will get lost. But you're not lost because you're lost. You're lost because of the fact that you wouldn't know you were going in the right direction. Because if you looked around for company and they weren't there, would you think everyone else was in the wrong place, or would you think you were? Type thing. But yeah. Right. So the fun thing about understanding what it is that you do and why it is that you do what you do, or trying to at the very least, is that you get to ask yourself questions. And I'm learning a very weird type of, what do we call it? Curiosity. I'm learning a very weird type of curiosity with myself that I've lost, or I had lost, because it was almost, I expect people to be able to answer questions about themselves without understanding that they might not be able to, or be in that mindset to do that. So it's selfish. My curiosity is to counter my selfishness, if I can explain it like that. And the experience of my own curiosity is leading me to a quiet place somehow, because I learned that curiosity is questions, right? But I've also now learned that you being able to get an answer from someone does not make, justify, explain, take away from the experience that you had. And yeah, I suck at the whole resolution thing. So I'm stuck at the piece where someone is about to become a ghost. I get really fixated on that because I'm trying to prevent the ghosting type movement, because I understand I feel like a crazy person after that. But it's also because of the fact I just want answers and I can't fabricate the answer, else it's an assumption type understanding. So you need to ask yourself, what ghosts are you holding on to, and then try and face that. Try and understand why, because it could be your pride. It could be your stubbornness. It could be you working against yourself because you're not gonna cave. You're not gonna let this other person feel like they won. Blah 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 blah. All of those things. But the argument is simple. It's how do you know when you're wrong? Do you accept that you can be? Is it possible to be wrong and hurt? Is it logical for you to understand that your experience of the situation and this other person's experience of the situation are both valid? It's just the execution of how the conversation happened was a little bit poor. And it's wrong because the other person expects it from you. That's what you feel, at least. But they feel the same way. Because they also feel like they're trying their best. They also feel like they're trying a new thing. They also don't know what they're doing. They also have trauma that they're trying to heal from, hopefully, maybe. Right? So the ghost situation can kind of drain your energy, because yeah, you can feel like you're on fire at sometimes, and you can feel like you are isolated at others. Because while you are dealing with that moment, those hot and colds that you're experiencing are all coming from your head. There's a thing that I heard that said the voices in your head are all people, and those people are all you. So those things that your head is trying to speak to you about, that your mind, your heart, your soul, whatever you're going to call it, that conversation that is trying to have with you, you're ignoring it. You're actively trying to ignore it. And then you are confused and upset that no one else wants to listen to you, but you are not listening to yourself. So, yeah. Anyway, so with the ghost draining energy and stuff, it's because of the repetition of the lesson that it's a problem, and that's what we're trying to get out of. That's what we're trying to break out of. And some ghosts are like bad Wi-Fi, invisible but messing with everything. They'll get you at the most random of times, the times when you least expect it, and that's the moment it's important, because you need to look around. You need to understand what happened that is triggering that thing. And I'm not saying that you need to do anything about it. I'm currently I'm currently in a wrestling match with my memory. I have, over the course of the last 3 weeks, I have had between 8 to 15 different conversations where the conversation kind of ends up at a place where the phrase that's being used is move on, but it's being used in so many different ways that it's so fun, because the conversation is the things that you're holding on to that are burdening you are things that you are allowing to live in your mind, but you are paying rent for it. So move on. Let them out. Let that thought, let that belittling, let that voice that is angry or sad or whatever, let that thing do its thing, and then let it move on. Let it move on to the next moment. Don't highlight the fact that it has occurred. And within my family, there's another thing that's now happening where it's you don't you don't try and hurt the ones that you love, right? That's simple enough baseline. But you probably do. You probably do hurt them. And I'm noticing that it's fairly difficult for us to hear what is hurting, because the why is an assumption. Instead of just taking the time to understand that there is pain and that pain needs to be dealt with. It's difficult though. It's not a straight line. There's no straight solution in my opinion, and that's why I'm recognizing that resolution is something that I'm struggling with, because it's, if I forget, do I pretend as though something isn't a pattern, isn't a part of a behavioral choice that someone is making? So if I see danger, if I do I skip out on those things, or do I try and navigate away from them? It's a mess, man. It's a mess. But even something as simple as, if I look at the podcast setup, I mean, this is a new, we're trying a new little mic setup, we got a new voice card, we're trying some lighting stuff, we're trying some setup and background stuff. There's changes that need to happen in your life, and it's not, I'm not ungrateful for where it was that I started, or upset at where it was that I started. It's, I need to recognize that there's a change and a development that has to happen. And that's crap. sometimes, most times. It's not fun. It's not. I'd wished I'd wish the change could have happened in a way that didn't feel as though it was more about going against the grain than something I felt capable of. Does that make sense? It's it's I'm trying not to get lost in the desire of having any kind of spite in the movement that I have, because there are people, places, things, activities, thoughts that I'd had going into this journey that have had to change and develop as I was doing it, which that's the part that I don't like. That's the ghosts that I'm carrying. That's the weight that I'm dragging along with me. Is it's To me it's this constant progression. It's this building. Life is this building thing, and it is small additions and small changes that work in one's favor as long as they are trying. As long as, in my head, not trying is 100% failure, but trying and having even just 1% of growth is enough. And whether that is thanks to Atomic Habits, as a book that I read regularly, or if it's just something that has now been ingrained in me because there's a lot that I've tried where I feel like I'm banging my head against the wall. But that's where you find your strengths. That's why the UAC was the UAC. The things that you think most define you as weak are the things that make you special. They make you strong. And soon there will be a episode on something that I recently started learning, and recent as in today, while I'm recording this episode, like 20 minutes before it started. That that type of current, and it's a lot. It's weird, but we'll come back to that. So, how do you let go without losing the lesson? Because that's, in my head, that's why I can't wipe my memory. That's why I can't let my memories disappear, because I think it will always be special. I think it will always be relevant. It will always have an impact. It will always affect how it is that I'm interacting with people. And if I don't pay attention to that, I'm scared I might miss something. And that's very much probably a trauma thing. Very much. In my own special and unique way, it's the thing that makes me me. But not a weakness. It's just who it is that I am. So in some of the episodes, I've given activities where it's like write down some stuff, make some notes, da 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 da. But physical space changes, that works really well for me. Like adjusting the room, trying some new things, failing at the things that I try. That for some reason is comforting to me. So that could be something. But journaling, physical space changes, and then rituals of release, which sounds a lot weirder than what it actually is. Whether it is the burn book thing, whether it is the writing poetry and setting it on fire, whether it is tearing up pictures, whatever that thing is for you, find a way to have the moment you need, but also understand that maybe you don't want to have the moment, and that's something for you to pay more attention to, because that's also important. And yeah, it sucks, but it's not about anybody else. People are people, and people are selfish, right? So it's about you. It's about what you want. It's about how you want it. And you might not always get everything that you want, and that's fine to acknowledge, but you also might just not be getting it right now because you're not ready for it. There's something that you haven't learned, there's something that you haven't mastered for you to effectively appreciate, enjoy, indulge, make the most of, be to the betterment of society, whatever we're going to call it. That's There's still something outstanding on your part. And until then, there's groove, so it's fine. Because that's what ends up happening. But like with me and the fishing trip, I never ever knew that that was something that I'd like doing, and it helped me with patience. It helped me with silence. It helped me with listening to the voices that were saying stuff and were angry and were sad and were this and were that. It's taking the time to sit with yourself, and yes, it's not any easier, since then it hasn't gotten easier. If anything, it's gotten harder. But we have to sit with it, because if we don't sit with it, it's just going to play in the background without us doing anything. And that's a little bit more dangerous to me. Um, but within the letting go of the ghost thing, it's the same. It's don't try not to. Don't try and avoid. Don't try and duck from it. Recognize, oh no, this is something that I need to pay attention to because it's important to me. It's got value to me, and it's not because of this other person. It's not for anybody else. It's for the fact that if if anything, one of the weirdest things that I think somewhere along the lines I potentially had forgotten is I had a rule where if any bond ended, the person had to be better off because they'd met me. Whether it was because they believed in themselves, they trusted themselves, their ambitions changed, they believed that they could do something, they tried something and they succeeded, whatever that thing is. I want, I want the people that interact with me to be happy that they did. And maybe it's superficial, maybe it's deeper than it needs to be, maybe it's sentimental, maybe it's value related. Who knows? Figure that out in another session. But in my head, the reframe that had to happen was, how do I be the best version of myself for the next person? And that was 10 times harder, because it became a matter of, I started comparing consistency, I started comparing effort, I started comparing all of these things because I expected that somebody could match, keep up, da da da. Those words are already wrong. Remember, the minute you think you're right, you're wrong. And it's a matter of, I was attempting to become this version of myself that I thought I needed to be in order for this new connection to not end up a ghost, fundamentally. And that's happened with friends, and it's happened with family, and it's happened with partners. It's a thing. I'm realizing it's a thing that I've done. But I haven't figured out the reason yet. I haven't figured out the the why my mechanism is like that. And it's incomplete. So does it mean that it doesn't have an effect? That's not true, because I can also attest to it having effects in the real world with my life. So yeah, you don't need to erase the past to move forward, but you do need to carry the lesson, not the ghost. People, very many different people can teach you the same thing, and people that are similar can be very different. It's one of the reasons I think people struggle people struggle with this typing thing, because the minute you understand someone's type or you see someone's type, it becomes confusing when the chat goes the other way. But that's also a normal thing, because people don't really understand always what it is that they like and why it is that they like it. They just do. So this week on Music Rex, we are going to do. Okay, we're gonna try and stay on the ghost theme for a little bit, but we're gonna start off with an artist that I've already recommended, which is Hills. From the Swings and Roundabouts album, this week I'm going to recommend Roundabouts. Okay, then keeping on the ghost theme, we are going to go with Joyner Lucas's NBM, his latest single. Um, let's then go with Gone by DJ Sue, and our fourth recommendation is going to be New Chop by Malone the Chemist. Um, hmm, let's go against the ghost thing. Okay, the final recommendation for this week is going to be I Won't Forget by Leo Waters. Okay, and I think for the toxic people, I'm gonna put another song in the playlist, but I'm not gonna recommend it. I'm just gonna put it in the playlist. It'll be there. It'll be the only song I've never recommended, but it still features. Okay, so that is our song Rex for this week. So in closing, right? Go show up when lessons are unfinished, but we have the choice to release them. We can hold on to the lesson and let go of the ghost. We can. It's hard. It's not easy. It's not simple. Remember that. Okay? Gentle encouragement, just so that you don't forget. You're allowed to put down what isn't yours anymore. Let's say it again. You are allowed to put down what isn't yours anymore. Even if you didn't decide that it's not yours anymore. Even if you did. Because if you want it to be yours, it might require you to do something different to what you're currently doing. And you might not be capable right now. And that's okay. Because that's what happens. That's life. But it doesn't mean you can't be happy. And you need to be. So maybe the real haunting isn't the ghosts, but it's the fear that we can't move on. Right? Because that's the problem. We worry that the ghost is going to permanently be there. But we can. But it's slow, it's patient, one shift, and one breath at a time. Okay? Right. So, do not forget, like, subscribe, share, do the things, please. Also, the podcast is now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and videos are on YouTube. Right? So you can pick your platform of choice, do what it is that you got to do. I don't have any ratings on Spotify yet, and it is still a couple of the older episodes that are still dropping because I need to now build that following. So I don't know if you guys are more about audio, more about video, completely up to you. I might be easier on the ears than I am on the eyes. It's just a thing that happens. But yeah, stay curious, stay kind, stay connected. Keegan out.